Hi, everyone. I am Supriya, and this is my talk on OSINT and Oreos, my quest to find my house hunter. This is the date. This is me. I'm Supriya. I work currently at Brainoise. I'm the senior community manager. I'm currently in DC with my husband and two dogs. I've been in the InfoSec space for like 7 years now, which kind of feels crazy because I think time just flies. And I would like to caveat this talk with the fact that I am an amateur OSINT person. I was introduced to it through TraceLab CTF with a couple of friends and coworkers. And it's kind of been like a side passion for a while. My likes are indie alt-rock bands, baking, as you will come to learn. My dogs, obviously. Dislikes, Discord, that might be controversial, a bit more of a Slack girl, long car rides, and my dogs when they pick up their squeakiest toy, which they will not do because they are currently at the PARK. So this whole kind of thing, it's about a story, and it starts with a phone call, or really actually 6 phone calls, which I will play for you now.
This is Jen. I'm not sure if I have the right number, but I'm looking to buy another house in your neighborhood within the next couple of weeks, possibly even this week. I think cash can close whenever you would like. It will also be an as-is purchase, so you won't have to worry about any repairs, inspections, or any realtor fees or commissions. Again, if I have the wrong number, I do apologize, and there's no need to give me a call back. However, if you are interested in receiving a cash offer, please call me back. I look forward to hearing from you soon, and have a great day.
So if that sounds choppy, it's because it is. It's actually a robocall, and I received about 6 to 7 more like it, kind of within the span of like a few months. And I mentioned some of this information about me earlier to help set the stage. I live in DC. I don't live in Texas, though that's where I'm from. And if you know anything about the real estate market, it's that it's very hard to own a home. So I'm not a homeowner, actually. I own no properties. So it's very strange that I received this phone call in the first place, let alone several more like it. And the other thing is, right, I'm in DC, not in Texas, but I have had the same phone number since I was a wee babe, and I have not changed it in the last 20 plus years. So a little bit more information there. Beyond the calls, I received text messages too. So we can see this is a screenshot that says, hi, we're interested in this house. It fits what my group wants in Garland. Garland, Texas is a suburb outside of Dallas. Ever ask yourself what you could get for it? This person with Alpha Real Estate. We're not agents, we're a direct company looking in the area. I figured I'd follow up on my text to see if I can come up with a number for this property. It's at the top of my list. Again, another text message. Hi, I was driving by your place this morning. What terms would make you let go of it? So again, I do not own this property. This is not me, but I'm very interested as to how and why I'm receiving this information. So I've kind of gleaned a little bit so far, right? There's a name here. And as you'll see, I've tried to blur out as much information as possible, because I don't think it's really cool if, since I'm not the house owner, to display any of the house owner's information. So I've tried to redact as much as possible. So there's a person, I'm going to call him Charlie for this talk. Charlie owns a house on Ridgestone Drive in Garland, Texas, and several people are interested in it. That still remains to be seen. So what can I find out about Charlie? Obviously, the first thing that I'm going to do is Google. It is absolutely terrifying how much PII is available on Google. If you just type even a first name and an address, I was able to come up with this white pages entry, which gave me not only the address, but 4 potential family members, that could be children, spouses, etc., linked to this house. Again, I've tried to blur as much information as possible, still a ton of information out here and available. And as you can see, there are some phone numbers that are linked to it, which I have not blurred out, including mine. My phone number is somehow tied to this person's white page information. So I found a couple of emails in conjunction with this. I thought maybe I could like see if there's a phone number tied to the email. Maybe that's how the information got linked. I have no real experience with white pages, so I'm sure there are some OSINT professionals here that I'd love to know more information from, and can definitely hit me up after this talk. But my first idea to pivot was email, phone number, probably linked. Maybe they are in a how I've been pwned record. So that was my next step to kind of take and put in all the emails. First two, no dice. I wish I was so lucky. No pwnage found, which is pretty cool. And then finally, the last email I got a hit on. It was in the River City media spam list, and it looked like the compromised data included email address, IP address, name, physical address. Strangely enough, not phone numbers. I did go a little deeper into the leak itself, and just a massive shout out, obviously, to Have I Been Pwned, and Troy Hunt and the entire team that does some of this investigative reporting and putting these reports together, which is just really cool. But unfortunately, my person, Charlie's information wasn't there. My phone number wasn't linked to it. So what else can I find, right? So this is my phone number, just putting a ton of PII out there of mine, but I don't care, you can call me, that's fine. I will probably ignore your call. So Googling some more information, not getting too much more, and then kind of like narrowing down my search. I was able to buy access to the white pages to get some of this like blurred out information. If you've ever done any of this type of investigation or tried to look for someone, that is hard to find. A lot of these sites are paywalled, which is probably a good thing, but are relatively cheap to buy access to. So maybe not that good of a thing, because if, $30 is a barrier to entry to know this much information about a person, it's like probably something wrong with our society. But my comments on data and privacy aside, I was able to glean another connection from my phone number linked to a relative of Charlie's. And it looked like it was somehow tied to this person and then relatively put back into Charlie's original profile. So I paid for the record. I was able to see that this primary cell phone was listed as my cell phone number, despite me having owned this number for 20 years. So again, just not getting to the clear point about where these two numbers are linked. And so right now I've concluded that they might have just put in a random cell phone number into some like ad database or something, and it just got linked to a profile. So I've hit a dead end with linking my phone number, right, and trying to figure out who Charlie is, trying to figure out anything about that side. But really, I'm trying to figure out who wants this house, right? Who are these people that are constantly calling, texting, emailing, etc. So let's go back a little bit to that text message. It looks like the original text message was sent from someone named Rhea with Alpha RE. So a little bit of investigating into who is Rhea and who is Alpha Real Estate. It does not inspire a ton of confidence that when I Googled Alpha Real Estate, Garland, Texas, these were the first two things that popped up. Get cash offer for my house, Texas cash for keys, buys houses, highest cash offers, will beat any serious offer. Not particularly inspiring. That being said, I am using incognito mode, which maybe Chrome was tracking what I was doing, but I was able to find a website called Alpha Real Estate Advisors. Turns out it's a real company. That's actually pretty solid. And I was digging through their website a little bit more. I didn't find a person named Rhea, but I found that they were listing some properties. They're based in Dallas, Texas, which again, Garland, the house that I'm tracking, is a suburb of. So, pieces were starting to fit together. But then I hit a slightly confusing turn because it turns out Alpha Real Estate's properties are all businesses and, areas and where mostly food and the office type properties. And so I did a little bit of retro digging into this house to see if it was something that a developer would buy to turn into a business property, but it actually turns out that it's very much zoned as a residential neighborhood. So it's really strange that Alpha RE would be interested in this property. So I, more confused than ever, decided that I would engage actually with my real estate buyer. So I called them back, and actually no one picked up, to absolutely no one's surprise. And I got a text maybe like 20 minutes later that said, hey, we're sorry we missed your call about this property. How can we help you? What's the best time to call you back? And finally, a name of another agent, supposedly. Hi, this is Alex with Alpha Home Buyers. I saw that we missed your call. How can we help? So it wasn't Alpha Real Estate. I just assumed based on the RE, it's actually Alpha Home Buyers. So where do we go from here? Straight back to Google. Alpha Home Buyers, again, not super promising that the first results that we're getting are for sell my house fast for cash. I truly don't know what the incentive for people to do this. Sometimes I guess you just need liquidity really quickly. And a little bit more searching revealed that there were like a dozen companies called Alpha Home Buyers, again, with this like cash incentive, quick, no closing costs, like buying as is. And I just wasn't getting anywhere to be able to find someone named Alex. I wasn't able to find Rhea. Just really no record of any of these people. So again, I decided to engage and ask, hi, Alex, are you a licensed agent? To which I originally thought I got ghosted and I was going to just end the talk and, call it a day. But it actually turns out Alex responded. They said, no, we're home buyers, not agents. We flip and rent homes. So that's kind of where my mind was at. We flip and rent homes. Again, that's a common activity people do, right? That's not crazy. It's not suspicious. It's not a scam, pretty honest. But obviously, I want to dig a little bit more and see if there's anything else I can find out. So I started looking up the other phone numbers. I mentioned I got 6 to 7 other phone calls over the span of like a year. That seems like a little, actually. I think it's more than that. But like I was digging back into my texts and my voicemails, and I can only pull up 7. So I feel like it's a lot, but maybe it was only 7. And again, like the other numbers had similar notes left across the internet. I don't remember where this top comment was left, but essentially someone said, scumball trying to scam you out of your home, robocall recording, lying about wanting a house in your area as if they knew where you lived, skirting the do not call laws by not actually selling you something, caller scum, call type scam suspicion. And what I was realizing is that, we have this, if you have an iPhone or a bunch of other types of, it's like a smartphone, whatever. Most phones have the ability to display locations, and, that's just based on zip code. Not zip code, area code. But what I was finding is that these were definitely VoIP numbers, voice over IP, which essentially means that you could use some technology like Google Voice or other different kind of tech out there to help route a call. So it's the FTC, right? I believe that's the org. So the FTC has a few like toll-free numbers that you can call from legally, like through there's a bunch of laws that help protect from scamming. So like 888 is a really good example of that type of toll-free number, but most human beings know not to pick up or engage or call back toll-free numbers because they're more often than not businesses or callers trying to sell you something, trying to, in this case, buy something from you. So to make them appear more legitimate, they are trying to use or take advantage of VoIP technology to help spoof. I don't know if spoofing is the right word because it is legitimate, but appear with a area code that is more local to you. So in my case, I am originally from Texas. I have a San Antonio area code, and so all of my texts and calls were from areas that were local to my area code, which makes me more likely to engage, right? So again, more Googling. I got into a Reddit rabbit hole, and I was able to find this really cool guy. He's a ProPublica reporter. He's doing an investigative story on We Buy Houses companies. And I'd love to hear from folks in this community about their experiences, and essentially set up a report for people to share their information. What I thought was really fascinating is that it was specifically posted in the Dallas like subreddit. And there were a lot of interesting stories about people engaging with these types of buyers. Though it didn't appear that it was a scam in the sense that exactly as Alex described in his text message to me, they offer, to buy houses, and then they flip them and rent them or sell them for much higher than they originally paid for them. Interesting side story here. I actually tried to reach out to Byron twice on Twitter and got weirdly shadow banned twice for, I say shadow banned. I actually got banned once. I had to reset my account yesterday for trying to send this message. And I'm not really sure how or why I violated Twitter's code of conduct, but yeah, if I'm not on Twitter, maybe it's this message that really did me in. And finally, make sure you include whoever is spamming me over text message to buy the wrong address for me over the past 3 years. What on earth is going on there? Can't be anything but a scam. So this is me putting a pin in it for now. Buying low and selling high is not a scam. It is kind of shitty though. More importantly, OSINT and the tools and skills that I use. This is not complicated, right? I didn't come here professing to be an expert at OSINT, but what I really wanted to do is be able to show that these are skills that I've picked up throughout the years. And it was meant to answer my burning question about who's identifying me as one of the home buyers, but good investigations take time. And so the goal here is to keep going. Maybe I will get in touch with the ProPublica reporter and can share some information that I've gleaned, even take some of the information that they've gleaned for their report. And then most importantly, stress baking is my version of the shower principle. If you have not heard of the shower principle, I don't know where it originates, but I learned about it through my favorite TV show, which is 30 Rock, which is that when your mind is occupied, when you're doing something else, you often think about the best, like things, or you're like, oh, I didn't think of this. Oh, I should go after, this thing, and pursue things further. So I will get into the baking half of my talk in a second, but I would love to stop and hear any questions that you might have, or comments, or things that I should chase after next.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I don't see any questions in Slack, but at least just yet.
Awesome. So on to the Oreo section, which you might be wondering, oh, sorry. Actually, I do want to put a quick plug in. So this whole thing was inspired by a podcast I listened to about a year ago on a road trip. It's called Scums XLS. I forget the name of the person that kind of went through I call it similar experience, but this man went through, basically someone found a student loan that this person had taken out like maybe 10, 15 years ago. They paid it off, but somehow this information that they had a loan in the first place changed hands like a dozen times and went to basically debt collectors is probably the best way to describe them. But this is the story of how he chased down people with PII of his that was like incorrect over the span of like, I don't know, something like crazy, like 5 years. And it was like all consuming, but it's a really great kind of exercise again in OSINT and like just really good investigative skills by a guy who's, I don't know, I think he was an accountant or something, but it's a really great podcast. And it's kind of what made me think about this in the first place.
Actually, Supriya, before you pivot, there
Yeah.
is one question in the Slack.
Sure.
I'm hoping you can answer. It's from Dio9sis. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. They're asking, have you done this with any other scam calls or emails? Or this
Ooh,
is,
that's a
or
great question.
did you get inspired by this only?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hey, Bree. So I have done this a few other times for family members. I'm not in a talk capacity, but more like, other people in my life were dealing with something similar. And other times, like, cases of identity theft or trying to pursue them like more aggressively. So have gotten to put my skills to work for that in a slightly more fruitful fashion, with the results ending up in being able to file reports, which is pretty cool. But this is my casual and slightly disappointing, but there are lessons in everything kind of talk.
Well, thanks. And hopefully you are able to get to the bottom of this at some point. But,
that would be really cool. One of my theories, I can keep talking about conspiracy theories while I'm here, but part of the way that the Reddit thread was leaning, and I think everyone can be an armchair investigator, but it takes actual like evidence and proof, and that's why I won't present it in a formal fashion, but would love to get to the bottom of it, is that they are targeting people over a certain age, because they think it's just less likely that they'll look up the value of their property, and that they've owned it for so long that any offer above what they paid for it is like something that they're more willing to part ways with. But there's just no evidence that there is a subset of people that they're targeting, because right now I only have data for myself. I don't know anyone else, obviously the Reddit thread, but I don't know anyone else that's been contacted. And if they meet that criteria. So I'm really excited to actually get in contact with the ProPublica reporter. I seriously doubt you're at this conference, but if you ever see this video, I would love to talk, because that is part of my theory, is that it's possibly elder abuse. I don't know if that counts as elder abuse. That's actually really wrong. Definitely ageism though. Cool. So onto the Oreos portion. You might be wondering, why Oreos? And the first reason is because it rhymed. And the second reason is that I often like to take on weekend baking challenges. This probably started it was before COVID, but like really kind of amped up during COVID. Of course, like a lot of people during the pandemic, got really into baking and cooking in general. I'm very fortunate. My brother-in-law is actually a chef. And so he lived with us during the pandemic. And so, for a while he was out of work, we got to work and test different recipes together. And he would show, us his knife skills and all sorts of really cool techniques that he'd learned from his pastry chef, etc. So Oreos are something I've never made before. So I figured I would try to make and recreate America's favorite cookie. I think that's the tagline. Nabisco, please don't come for me. And yeah, I figured I would show you the result. And I was mentioning in the green room, this was going to be a live baking demonstration, but if you've ever seen the SNL skit with Julia Child, that's kind of what I was, envisioning that it might end up as. So you're just getting a wonderful video with my narration, and then you'll get the movie magic where I'll pull the thing out at the end. I think that's really the vibe. Has anyone else ever made homemade Oreos? I'm going to rely on my moderators to tell me if that's true.
Nobody has really commented about that, but I've done a lot of quarantine baking too.
I love that. That's awesome.
Like everything from babka to like macaroons to.
Oh, yes. Babka is something I've really gotten into. There's a great recipe in the New York Times from Melissa Clark. That's my go-to. And then macarons, I have not mastered. My feet were pretty flat. So if you know macarons, you're supposed to get like the macaronage, which is the beautiful figure eight that you're able to make with the dough. And then they should be able to puff up and have cute little feet, the pied of the macarons, but mine have been particularly flat, and that is usually due to overmixing. So, all right, Oreo video almost over. We are making a delicious cream to fill in the center of our cookie. We're going to transfer it to a piping bag, which I did not do. And I will show you all the mistakes I made through this, because despite having a beautiful video recipe and a written recipe, I only followed about half of it, which is pretty par for the course. So don't be like me, don't be like Supriya, and follow the recipe. Let the
It looks like some
for 30 minutes. I did not do that.
It looks like some people have made homemade Pop-Tarts, and it looks like some Regis, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, has made some homemade Oreos for a cookie swap. So it looks like some people have to try their hand at this.
That's amazing. So this is the recipe courtesy of Series Eats. I highly recommend it. That's what I did, but did not follow the instructions. But if I did follow the instructions, I hear it's a very close replica. So without further ado, so I started with all my ingredients, which includes butter, flour, Dutch cocoa. So if you haven't heard of Dutch cocoa, it's cocoa that's processed with alkali. It creates like a deeper, like richer, darker, it's almost like black cocoa, but not quite there yet. Baking soda, salt. Baking soda and salt, I think, are the only other two things. Sugar. The recipe did call for golden syrup, but I did not have any and I did not feel like buying any. So I just used honey. And that was actually a really cool gift from Andrew Morris, who's one of my, he's a CEO of my company. I say he's a friend, he is a friend. But he, his dad raises bees. And he brought that honey back as a Christmas present, which is really cool. Salt. I use this vanilla powder, which is really cool because, as you know, vanilla extract tends to be pretty dark because of the alcohol and the vanilla beans. So vanilla powder is the same kind of like concentrate. It's dehydrated vanilla, basically. And it doesn't have a color. So it doesn't like tint the frosting to be like a darker hue. You can keep it pretty light and white, which is true to the original cookie. Interestingly enough, all the recipes that I looked up online had like some form of coconut extract or coconut oil in the cookie. And partly that's because of like, there's actually a really subtle flavor of coconut in an Oreo. I don't know if that's an original ingredient, but that's what a bunch of tasters have like identified as like a note of coconut. I also think that helps influence the way that the cookie snaps because of the way that the temperature of coconut oil is like a solid versus a liquid. So at room temperature and colder, it's a solid. If it's warmed up, it's a liquid. So it makes it easier to whip and incorporate into the batter, but then also set pretty well. And then powdered sugar, of course, to make the filling. So I started by creaming together the coconut oil, butter, and sugar. And again, I use coconut oil as a substitute because the Series Eats recipe called for cocoa extract, which I did not have, coconut extract, which I did not have. So I figured the fat in butter and coconut oil is about equivalent. Thank you. So I started whipping it together, quickly realized that my mixer was way too big. So I pulled out the hand mixer and incorporated everything together. And then I folded in all my ingredients. I was able to roll these out the way that you saw in the video with some cocoa powder and a little bit of arm grease. I molded them with a pie cutter that I had. I did not bother investing in buying an Oreo mold from Etsy, which you can buy, but I did not do that. So cocoa powder, cut them with a cookie cutter, molded them with a pie mold to just create a shape. It immediately baked out of them. So it just honestly was futile. And then finally, I gave to you the beautiful Oreos. So I didn't take a picture of the filling because I did that this morning. But as you can see, they are a little whoopie pie looking. But they kind of look like Oreos. And then as you just might have seen, my mother-in-law was so kind enough to run in and deliver me a glass of very cold milk. So we're going to do the dunk test right now. I haven't done this yet. I don't know if these Oreos pass the dunk test. So I think we're going to find out. If you're not aware of the dunk test, it's that an Oreo can like get dunked in milk and not disintegrate in 15 seconds. So I'm going to do that now. This should be very dramatic. So, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And she did not, oh, it's sliding. It feels a little disintegrating, but let's actually give it a taste. And I will demonstrate the snap while not trying to get it all over my computer. And that is a pretty good snap. And I'll take a bite. It more or less tastes like an Oreo. I'm actually really impressed. That was pretty cool. I really think the coconut oil really contributes to it. And will help with that snap of the cookie. So with that, that's it. I'm gonna have a sip of my milk. I would love any questions or comments or yeah.
Yeah, cool. That was really cool, and thanks for sharing that with us. I'm gonna keep an eye out for any questions in the Slack channel for Track 2. But yeah, okay, your comment about like elder fraud and things like that. Like I mentioned in the Slack, I know somebody that was recently widowed and was starting to get calls like that out in Texas too. So I'm wondering if it's multiple factors like that.
Yeah, it would be really cool to do a deeper investigation. So I just like choked on my Oreo. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking at the alpha home buyers, if you saw, there was, like 12 or 15 of these. It's really hard to believe that these are not working in conjunction with each other and that there isn't like a parent company, a parent org, or some thread tying them together. And so I think one that would help shed some light on the fact if there is any strategy behind this, or if it's truly random and people are just targeting houses. I think that's where I'm going to try and go next with the investigation. It's like, what is the commonality and like, why are there so many of the same types of companies? Is it actually a really lucrative business? And then again, is there a strategy to go after a certain type of person that's more willing to give up their home and their property?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's like public records type stuff, like or like if there's like liens and things like that associated with it.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And part of the reason I asked, I didn't talk about it, but part of the reason I asked if they were a licensed real estate person is because you can look up licenses, right? Like it's another form of credential, right, to help validate an org. But obviously you don't need a credential to buy a house and flip it. You can just do that. But obviously there are tax implications if you do it with a business versus like as a person. So I think, yeah, the next thing would be to go start digging through business records of LLCs.
Cool.
Awesome. That's all I've got.